Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with both local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what really drives them forward. And today I'm delighted to have with us Dave McCormack, Managing Director at PEG. So Dave, firstly, if you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself, PEG, and how you help your clients.
Yeah, sure. Well, as you say, I am Dave McCormack, MD, and one of the co-founders of PEG. We're a creative agency specializing in video.
Right.
And we do sow the seed in a few other directions as well, because we have a sort of can-do attitude. And if other opportunities come along, we'll see what we could do. It could be web development or experiential stuff, but by and large, video is what we spend nearly all of our days doing.
Right.
And love doing, and have been doing since the company started. The company sort of launched in the early days of 2020. So
right.
Yes. So I was about to say we've been making videos since we launched. We haven't. we launched and then we sat in our hands for a few months. The world opened up again.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I can imagine. I've spoken to one or two businesses that started in or around, and I guess it must be totally weird when we get back to normality. Actually, sort of almost feels like almost like coming out the dark into the sunlight and sort of screwing our eyes up. So, if you'd be kind of maybe tell a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into this business and why this particular one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I guess ever since it took me a while to get going, career-wise, just to catch on to something that I wanted to do. So I won't bore you with going way back.
Right.
I'll let you know. I did a postgraduate. My undergraduate degree was economics and politics.
Right.
Interesting topics. They don't necessarily lead you into a job, but studied that. Worked for a few years. Did a bit of traveling, all those kind of things. It wasn't until sort of 25. I was back in Ireland. Did a postgraduate diploma in journalism. And that was really sort of, right, finally, the conveyor belt has begun.
Right.
So my background starts at about 25 doing a journalism course. Coming out of that, the biggest thing about the journalism course for me was kind of learning I didn't want to be a journalist. Now, I say that in a traditional sense. I didn't want to be a print journalist. I didn't want to work for a newspaper that was owned by somebody who had a specific point of view, and it would be my job to reflect their point of view rather than the truth.
Yes. So
that's actually where TV came into it. So the appeal for me of television was regulation.
Yep.
The fact that on TV, by and large, you need to tell the truth all the time.
Yes.
The regulator will chop you off if you don't. Which I think is a fantastic thing. In Britain and Ireland, that's how it works. TV is sacred. Print is a bit different. Ownership is different, and how they position things is different. On TV, you've got to tell the truth. So that's what drew me to it. So I from university then, for my postgrad, I went into television in Ireland. Did a few bits and pieces, a couple of bits with the national broadcaster, a couple of bits with some independent production companies. And then I got a job working with a local TV outfit in Ireland who had city TV channels, and they were called City Channel. And they had channels in Dublin, Cork, Galway, Waterford.
Right.
And so I joined and was very much in the program planning team. So, looking at lots of grids, a weekly grid, a monthly grid, a 6-month grid, and decide what do we put on when, and when do we get a great reaction from that? And it's there's a sociological aspect to that of really trying to pick what's going to appeal to different subsets at different times of the day and things like that. And I also worked a lot on the transmission side. So it's one thing deciding when you're putting programs out, it's another thing deciding how it actually works. So it was a terrific education in how to run a TV channel, a TV network, on a reduced budget, which it very definitely was.
Yep.
So there was a few years working there to a point where my previous boss at the time got in touch with me. He'd left the company, but gave me a shout a year later and said, the Brits are looking at doing this. Let's have a chat.
Brilliant.
So it was early 2010, and the Labour government were looking at what's the term? ITV were considering not doing news anymore, basically.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and they were looking at independent companies might come in and take that news requirement from them and produce it. Now we looked at that and thought that's interesting, but all signs were pointing towards the Tories getting in the May of that year anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, and the culture secretary at the time, Jeremy Hunt, had identified local TV as something he wanted to champion.
Yeah.
So we saw this as a terrific opportunity to take what we'd learned in Ireland, how to do it cost effectively, how to make it a profitable business, and apply that knowledge and expertise to the UK. So I agreed to, let's go for it, jack in the job, let's concentrate on trying to take local TV to the UK. And this is where I do need to be succinct with you, because I could talk for about 4 hours on this topic, because in January 2010, we thought, well, we'll have a go at this. And let's say in a year's time, maybe we'll have a TV channel on there. It doesn't work like that. It was a government process. Licenses were advertised. It was an extensive process of going around the country and meeting people from different parts and talking to Ofcom and the Department for Culture, and years of building a process towards the where you've been awarded a TV license and you can push the button on launching. So from January 2010, we launched our first channel, made in Bristol, on October the 14th, 2014, I think.
Wow.
So a good 4.5 years of having an idea and being able to push that button. It was a long time. But that's basically what took me to the UK. That's what took me into the TV industry in the UK. We launched in a 6-week period back in 2014. We launched 4 TV channels in Bristol, Cardiff, Leeds, and in Sunderland for the Tyne and Wear region. And we launched a network operations centre here in Leeds, where I'm based now.
Yep.
Within a couple of years, there was 8 channels in our network. We've got, we're broadcasting 24/7 on 8 different TV channels on Freeview, Sky, and Virgin. The staff numbers approached about 140 at one point. So it was a big old shit, very small in TV broadcasting terms, but in small business terms, quite big.
Yeah.
So it was a big operation we were running. Fun, stressful, ups and downs, never really knowing, was I enjoying it, because I didn't have time to think about it.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
A lot of my Irish friends said over the years, "Are you enjoying yourself? Is it good fun over there?" I went, "I can't answer that." I've just taken a call from IT and they've told me one of the channels has gone off air. I can't say whether I'm enjoying it or not. I'm just trying to get through the next day. But basically that took us up to 2017. Some new ownership came into the business, some new investment, slightly different way of thinking. The business had to be restructured.
Right.
And by restructure, we mean we had to let go a lot of staff.
Yeah.
And after that restructure, I was chief operating officer. But I moved into a much more commercial role after the restructure, which I was very happy to do.
Yeah.
No one really knows the business as much as the founders. No one can communicate to the client what it's all about. So I was happy to do it and actually really enjoyed it. So I'd gone from a position where when you're fundraising, you're selling. You're out meeting people, you're talking up the business, you're trying to drum up interest. All of a sudden, we've got the investment, we raised the money, we've built this complex in Leeds, and I'm sitting behind lots of dark screens, making sure everything works. So it was kind of from being front and center to being in a little rabbit hole. And then by 2018, I was pushed back out of my rabbit hole, and I'm meeting clients and I'm trying to sell them video production, TV commercials, airtime, all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed it. I loved being back out with people. Really? That approach was more about meeting someone and finding out what their goals and ambitions and aims are, and how could we help them tell their story in video form. And it's a much more nuanced approach than what I was previously in charge of, which was the grind of pushing out all these programs. We were making 100 hours a week of content. I mean, it's huge. I wasn't in a position to watch a fraction of it.
Yeah.
Whereas on the commercial side, it's more about taking your time, making the right ad for that client, or making the right promotional video, or whatever it might be.
Yep.
You take your time and you put more craft into it. So I love that. So by late 2018, I realized it was time for me. I didn't have the same influence over the company that I did when we started it.
Yes.
To go for something new, launch my own business, and luckily with my business partner Tracy, we decided to have a go at where's my thing going? Peg.
There we go. Yep. Brilliant.
And so Peg is basically doing what I really enjoyed doing in that last year, which is trying to tell. Every business generally has an interesting story to tell, you know.
Yep.
And even if it comes from, people might think there's nothing remarkable about their business, but if they're really passionate about it, you know, Chris, that passion comes through, and
Absolutely.
people tell to it, and there is a story. There's a story behind it. And I really enjoy getting into to meet people and find out what they're all about, and can I tell their story, and can I make it look really nice?
Yep.
Can I get a pleasant experience for a viewer? Can a viewer get something from it? Can they feel some emotion? Can it cause them to engage, and can they react to it?
Yep.
And that's a lot of fun to do, and that's what Peg's all about.
Wow, that's very exciting. What a bit of a whirlwind across so many different.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. You know, I moved to the UK literally 10 years ago this month.
Yep.
And it's been a whirlwind 10 years. Well, a lot slower the last 2 years, I suppose, because of pandemic, downsizing in terms of business, but still, yeah, it's been a ride.
Sounds amazing, absolutely incredible, and I guess it's an area that most people, including myself, would just have no idea. You know, TV, and that it feels like it's something that's, you know, other people do, and it's fascinating that you know, that journey through what you've done. So, what would you identify as some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome over that period?
Well, I guess there's the original. The business was formed to win broadcast licenses.
Yep.
So that was a massive challenge, because we managed to raise some seed capital early days, but that sort of paid for myself and my business partner to move to London, where we lived for a few years, and start the fundraise process. But to get to a position where you could try and win licenses, you had to demonstrate you were something, you existed.
Yes.
So one of the hardest things I had at the start of my journey in the UK was working with people, recruiting teams across the country to help us win a license, and to then go on and drive a local business once we were in a position to finance it. But of course, those early days, we weren't able to finance it. We weren't a trading business.
Yes.
There's no income. So a real challenge was, I guess, I'd like to think, I suppose, it sharpened my motivation skills.
Yes.
I had to tell people a dream. It wasn't like an interview process where I meet you, you come for a second interview, I like you, I offer you a job, and then a couple of weeks later, I pay you something.
Yep.
That whole process, except at the end of the month, there isn't a pay packet. We're not trading. It's all on a promise. You know,
Yep.
If you help us now, and we win this license in Birmingham, when we launch, you're the station manager. That
Yep.
kind of thing. And it just had to bring so many people on a journey for so long, for a number of years, and just keep people motivated. That was a big challenge. Overcoming it, I think it was just learning how to sell. Not sell. Sell's the wrong word, but try and take the enthusiasm you have and infect it to other people. You know, get them on board. Let them see the passion you have, and understand.
Absolutely.
And try and tell them what the future might hold for them if they just leave for a bit longer. So that was certainly a challenge. You know, fundraising was a big challenge.
Yeah.
We originally thought that the tough thing to do would be to win these broadcast licenses from the government. And then once we thought we had the licenses, the money would roll in. Yeah. And that's incredibly naive because winning the license is one thing. All it is at the end of the day is a piece of paper.
Yes.
You know, it still took a lot of effort and, you know, months and months and months of VC meetings and meeting media owners and trying to convince them to take a punt on local TV. So that was hugely difficult. We did eventually get there in the summer of 2014, giving ourselves about 2 months from the money landing in the bank to building 4 TV studios and a network center and hiring 80, 90 people.
Fantastic.
But again, you know, that was just a case of, that was just perseverance on the fundraising side, perseverance, you know, keep going. Maybe it won't work out for you, or maybe it will. I think one of the good things about that process was when you were given a license by Ofcom to say, well done, you have the license to broadcast local television services in Leeds. You've got 2 years to go and raise the money, or they take it back.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Thing we almost laughed at when we first heard that, because we thought 2 years, 6 months, need 2 years. We needed every day of that 2 years to get that money. Yeah. So, but it's good because there was a deadline. You know, you knew that there was this. The clock was ticking constantly for us to shine. So that was a positive, having that. And I think if I look at if I'm just looking at my previous role on the TV side, like I say, there was a restructure in 2017, and that was a lot of work had to go into that restructure. There was redundancies across the board, and I certainly learned a lot from that process of how not to do it well, how to try and manage something like that, which is, you know, it's a grim process to have to manage, but obviously it's worse for people losing their job. How can you do it in a way that provides information, because people don't like feeling they're left in the dark in a process like that. Try and be as transparent as possible, let people know exactly why this is happening, you know exactly what the process is between people who have been identified as staying or going and all that kind of stuff. So even just having that, I think on my CV, it's grim, but it was hugely valuable. You learn a lot about yourself and about how to run a business and how to work with staff when you have to go through something like that. So those are probably some of the biggest challenges. With my current business, my main thing is time. Time's the challenge. As I say, at one point in our old business, there was about 140 of us. And now, between my regular freelancers here, there's between 4 and 8 or so of us in this business.
Right.
So it's, in one sense, it's easier to manage. In another sense, I don't have a finance department. You know what I mean? So time is the biggest blocker in the current business.
And as is true with both, with so many people in business full stop, let alone SME businesses. But as you say, when you don't have all those different departments you can rely on, it's all down to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what would you say you've looked? What some of the things you've learned through those challenges and through those growing those businesses?
I think if you look at, I suppose, deciding you want to be an entrepreneur or something, if you want to go down that path, which obviously I have done for the last 12 years. What are the things we learned? Don't be too precious. The amount of people I've met who think they've got a great idea, but they don't really want to say it to anybody yet, or they want to get their ducks in a row and all these kind of things. Those are all just blockers, They're all things that you're telling yourself to try and not put pressure on yourself,
Yes.
I think there's very few people who have invented something that's going to take off and no one's ever thought of it. Generally, if we've all got an idea, it's kind of been done by somebody somewhere.
Yep.
So you don't have to be too worried about protecting your IP and things like that. If you've got an idea and you want to go for it, I think generally, without being too silly, you tell as many people as you can.
Absolutely.
Shout about it. You're not going to get anywhere by keeping your great business idea secret.
Completely agree.
Yeah, so that's something I always recognized. I think quite early on as well, I noticed when we started off the business and there's 2 of us, and then all of a sudden your fundraising and some seed capital comes in, and the first time you ever dilute is quite scary.
Yes.
With the same logic, I'd say that you can't be too precious about diluting as well, because 100% of a business that doesn't do anything, it doesn't mean anything. You'd be better off having 5% of a hugely successful business.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's those kind of things I think are certainly things that I've learned. Yeah, in terms of being somebody wants to decide to go it alone, I think there's just that you've really got to decide how involved you want to be in this business, you know, because it's going to be all day, every day.
Yep.
Maybe when you're out on a Saturday with the kids, I mean, I even find like there's still one part of me is still thinking about that video I need to complete next week.
Yep.
I haven't caught up with client A, and I really need to do it first thing Monday morning because they deserve that level of service, whatever it be. Those are the kind of things you have to be committed all in to want to go and do something yourself.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you will stumble upon some sort of business that runs itself because it doesn't usually.
No, they can be made to, but ultimately, yeah, they certainly won't in their infancy and growth phase, I would suggest.
Exactly.
But I think it is starting with that end in mind. It's having the mindset that we want to, because going back, I think something you said, it's like deciding that you want that is quite often a difficult thing to do for many people, because it is almost, again, like the shares, it's always giving away control. If I'm touching it all, I'm controlling it all, so I sort of know it all. But as soon as I start to delegate, that's giving a little bit away, and so that's quite key. So, who or what would have had the biggest influence on your business career?
Well, I've had two business partners, so I probably won't go into the specifics of their individual characteristics, because who knows what their thoughts will be when I dish the job. But undoubtedly, you know, going into business with somebody else means you influence them and they influence you. I to be honest, I've never really had a business mentor or anything like that. You know, I've had, before I got into media, you know, I had a variety of jobs, some sales positions. I worked in banking for a while, worked in retail. So really seen quite the odd job man before I, but still, you know, it's part of my nature. I'm not that idolizing a person.
Yeah.
I'm not a fanboy of things. I don't idolize. So influence wise, I would just say, you know, I've had two business partners, and you know, you're really meshed in when there's two of you.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely that, you know, those two people are influences. Simple as that. But I won't go into specific character traits.
That's fine. No, that's great. No, it's good though, but it's great sometimes to reflect and just pull those things out, because it is like, what is it that they help me with, or what is it about their behaviors or characters that I might want to emulate in some way, on occasion when it's helpful. I think that's
completely. And look, I did dovetail very well with both of them in different ways, and that's really important. There's definite, look, I just had a client call with my business partner. I brought her in to meet with a client because I couldn't quite figure out what how their story needs to be told. My business partner Tracy is smarter than me. Simple as that. I'm more operational. I'm get down to it. How many cameras do we need? When's the shoot? Let me get the spreadsheet. But in terms of really understanding somebody's business and the emotional connection that they will have with the customer, she's better all day long. So in that respect, I think that's not an organic influence, you know. It's a very structured influence. It is deciding, right, I don't want to do this on my own. I think it'll be better with a business partner, and it's working with somebody who can add the stuff that you don't have in your armory as much.
Brilliant. And along the journey, have you picked up? I like collecting useful quotes and sayings that people live by or run by. Is there anything that comes to mind for you that you find yourself saying regularly or thinking?
Well, do you know, I'm not hugely big on the motivational sayings. I do appreciate, like, when you stumble upon a cracker of a motivational one, you think, oh, that made me think a bit differently. You know, I'll go, wow, that's. But by and large, I don't really think like that. But I will say there's one line that I think is one of the smartest lines to repeat back to yourself in any walk of life, or any moment of conversation or conflict. And again, I'll give kudos to my business partner Tracy here. It was probably a few years ago, and I was probably getting annoyed about something in work and thinking I was going to challenge somebody on something, and I was getting worked up. And she would very calmly look at me and say, "What do you want your outcome to be?" And I think that's just such a fantastic line, because it instantly takes you from this moment of rage you might be in, or frustration or anger, whatever, and it jumps you forward, an hour, a week, a month, whatever it might be, to a place where it's already happened.
Yep.
And you can see, oh, right. Well, the outcome that I want here is to get a promotion. So if I get angry here and I start shouting at my boss, I'm not going to get that promotion. So I just think it's such a powerful line. It's like an out of body experience line. What do you want your outcome to be? And it's quite funny. Whenever she's worked up, I use it back on her. And she instead has to acknowledge, yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah. The path I'm choosing isn't going to get me that outcome.
Yep.
So I need to reassess here. Be really ruthless. What is the outcome? If the outcome is we want more business from the client, or the outcome is we don't want to work with a certain client anymore because they don't share our values, always ask yourself then, when you're about to have that phone call or send that email, what do you want your outcome to be? And then react appropriately.
Brilliant. It's a really great question, and it clearly is taking us back from the emotional side to the logical side, because as you say, that most of what we our drive, even our decisions are emotionally driven. And that can be a good thing, but it also be a challenge. So taking us back into the logic, what do I really want to happen? That's I like that. I think it was Stephen Covey talked about, with success in his book 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, start with the end in mind. Yeah. What is our moving towards? And yeah, absolutely, it gets rid of a lot of the noise, doesn't it?
Completely. And it's really hard to cut out the emotion. We're emotional people, and if we don't feel we've been disrespected or anything it might be, and it's very hard to separate that emotion. It's where you need someone next to you who can just throw that line at you.
Absolutely.
Force you to analyze it properly and then make the right decision.
Oh no, that's absolutely correct. And it's however frustrating it can be, it's great to hear that logical words coming across. So that's fascinating. So looking back, so looking forwards now, what's the future hold for you and Peg, and what are the challenges that you may face as you grow?
The future for us is certainly to continue what we're doing in the case of making lots of high impact, short form, engaging video that drives emotion and drives reaction.
Yep.
And a lot of the stuff we've done has been sort of short form, 3, 4, 5 minute videos for brands. Yep. And we've done stuff for education and big retailers and stuff. But we're always open to doing the things, like it could be long form programming we might take a look at again, because obviously with the TV background I've done lots of that.
Yep.
I'm in the middle of filming actually a podcast myself for a client.
Yep.
But it's a sort of mobile, it's a video cast set in a car. It's in a flash sports car, and anybody who's seen my LinkedIn will have seen some of the behind the scenes recently.
I'll have a look.
But the future is about just keeping expanding, never saying no to anything, not instantly anyway. In the world of video, just constantly happy to keep on diving in and seeing where we can get to, because the great education I got on TV was that you learn how to produce a good 30-second trailer for something. You learn how to make a 20-second commercial. You learn how to make a news program and a 3-minute news item, and you learn to make a 60-minute cookery program. So the education you get when you're involved in all of it, as I was, the education is immense, which is great. Which is a great boon for us at PEG, because people can come up and say, well, do you do this? And I go, I haven't done it in 6 months, but yes is the answer. And if I don't have the staff in the business, I know where to find them because of the last 10 years. So that's great. In terms of challenges, again, I'll just go back to time. It's just, it's that small business taking a step from, look, we hired we started out, me and Tracy in 2020, and then last year we hired 4 staff.
Yep.
So the team's building, but then taking that, that revenue jump even to go from, right, we're doing this well, but to take the next step, I kind of need to step out of day to day a little bit.
Yep.
And these are the challenges that nearly all business owners face. You can be a neat little small business and keep doing what you're doing, but if you want to get bigger, you're going to actually have to change the daily dynamic.
Yep.
You have to step out of doing everything.
Yep.
Which in one sense, like we discussed earlier, I want to step out of doing that, but I'm also afraid of stepping out of doing that.
Yep.
But the goal is, hopefully, we're opening another office this calendar year.
Wonderful.
And then potentially another one next year. We want to, by the end of next year, we'd like to have 3 offices.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at. So
plenty to do.
Plenty to do.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I'm sure it'd be great to sort of maybe keep in touch and repeat this in 6-12 months and just see how your progress is going. Dave. Just a couple of last things. Really keen to get you. I'm interested to see your view on this, especially given the story that you've told. Is what would you say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now?
I think like I hinted at earlier about, deciding if you want to be an entrepreneur or not.
Yes.
I think it's that same logic of, well, I'll say one thing, I look forward to coming in on Monday mornings. Simple as that. I love my weekends with the family and the kids. Don't get me wrong. But I'm also in a privileged position of really wanting to get in a Monday morning and get running again. And I think a question for anybody who wants to go into business is the business they're thinking of setting up. Can they picture that? Can they picture Sunday nights and really looking forward to getting stuck in on a Monday morning? Because that's step one. Because as we discussed earlier, it is 24/7. There's no escape route. If you want to be successful, if you really want to make a go of it, you've got to live and breathe it. You're going to come home in the evenings, have some dinner, and then your brain is going to be switched back onto your business. It kind of has to be. Certainly, like we say, for those opening years.
Yeah.
So it's just, if you want to do it, be prepared to really gun it. Go for it.
Brilliant.
Know that it's going to be all consuming. And if you look at that with fright, then maybe stick to the day job. If you relish that opportunity, then you're probably in a good place to just start your own business. Brilliant. Love it. Great. No, great advice. I think it's accepting, as you say, that phase of that you have to go through. And if it's not good enough and it doesn't excite you to want to do that, then that makes sense. And finally, what advice would you give to an 18-year-old Dave, going back and then looking forward? What would be the advice? 18-year-old Dave, I'd say, concentrate a bit better. Stop. Do you know what? I can't say what 18-year-old Dave used to do. I think it's interesting. Obviously, 18-year-old Dave was the late 90s, and the work culture has changed, as you know, Chris, massively since then. Yep. One thing I think for the 18-year-olds of today is it's great that people know their rights more. They're more familiar with what should be in a contract. They're less likely to be exploited, which is terrific. It's and people put a place of value on their time and their effort, and that's great. But I guess I would want to warn anyone against being complacent in that sense, or an 18-year-old starting a job and just thinking, right, it's time to clock off. I've done a good job between 9 and 5, and if I keep doing a good job between 9 and 5, maybe I'll get a promotion someday. Yeah. Wouldn't we love if life was that simple? Yeah. But it's not that simple, because your line manager or the boss of the company doesn't have necessarily the time to really analyze who's doing what between the working hours. People have to stand out. Yeah. forget that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the workplace culture might be like. You still, if you want to progress in a company, you've got to stand out. You got to make an effort to stand out.
Yep.
Don't make yourself sick doing it.
Yep.
Don't get exploited, but within reason. You know, if you're happy to just do that little bit more in the evening, or you spotted a bit of danger, you know, that you spotted that a colleague might not have done what they needed to do, don't leave it to them. You spotted the danger, go jump in, fix it, show you take collective responsibility in that company.
Yep.
And you'll go far. You don't have to kill yourself trying to impress, but still try to impress, you know, always try to impress.
Wonderful. Very, very sound words of advice. Yeah, thank you. I think that's bang on. And yeah, wherever we are in that journey, it is the standing out, isn't it? And as businesses, we've got to stand out. But
yeah.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time. It's been really fascinating. Your journey and where you are right now and what's next. And as I said, it'd be great to catch up at some point in the future.
Yeah,
see where Peg is with its future.
Yeah, good. Well, I mean, hopefully I've managed my time better by then, and I've got doing some of the nitty gritty, and we'll have 3 offices hopefully.
Brilliant. Look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you, Chris.